So I'm going to do 4 readings of this one poem, and each reading kind of gets a little bit deeper into the poem. So the first few, you'll be like, why is she asking me these questions? And then as we get into the later readings, the questions will get more deep. So this poem is called Passing, and it's by an author named Ona Gritz. So the first reading, we're just going to read the poem and then answer some kind of structural questions about it. So the poem is Passing. She walks as if favoring a sore foot, and her one hand can't distinguish coins from stones. Mostly, she imagines, no one knows. At last week's dance, a boy with sleek hair kissed her in the corner. Tonight, her youth group is doing a yearly good deed. Leaning on a wall, she watches guests crowd the gymnasium in wheelchairs. Skewed legs rack with sudden currents. Arms lay folded and stiff like cooked wings. Her friends hold the twisted hands in their own, then sway, grace among the wheels. She'll choose a partner among the palsied strangers when there's a song she can get lost in. It will be like dancing with her secret self. Now we'll move over to the questions under about the author. So, reading number 1, we're just making observations about the poem. So, we'll start with a little bit of background information. Ona Gritz is a poet who has cerebral palsy all her life. Her condition affects her coordination and balance, but not enough to have ever truly hindered her. For the most part, I consider my disability a cosmetic issue, she said. Just how obvious is it? Do people see me as pretty despite the limp? So she said mostly she's seen her disability as like a physical thing that people might judge her on because it makes her less attractive. And then there's a little bit of background here about cerebral palsy as well, because it's relevant to the poem. So cerebral palsy, or CP, is a condition that affects muscle tone, movement, and motor skills. It hinders the body's ability to move in a coordinated and purposeful way. CP is often caused by brain damage that happens before or during a baby's birth or during the first 3 to 5 years of a child's life. All right, so now we're going to take a look at just the structural basics of this poem. So we're going to ask ourselves, does it rhyme? Does it have a meter, which means like a beat? Or is it free verse? So for this particular poem, we can look at the end of each line and see, does it rhyme at all? So we see like foot, distinguish, imagines, boy, corner. So we want to look at more than just the first couple lines, because sometimes there's a rhyme scheme with longer space in between. But for this one, I don't think there's any rhyming at all. So you can use your highlighter tool and highlight no, it does not rhyme. Meter is a beat. So my son has a lot of children's books, obviously, and there's a book called The Pout Pout Fish, and some of the lines honestly have like a beat that you can almost tap to. So there's one that's like, I'm a pout pout fish with a pout pout face, and I spread the dewy worries all over the place. And you can like tap to it as if it's a song. This poem, as we look through it, she walks as if favoring a sore foot, and her one hand can't distinguish coins from stones. Doesn't really seem like there's any sort of beat to it at all. So this one does not have a meter. So if both of these are no, then it has to be yes, a free verse, because a free verse does not have any rhyme or any meter. If either of these is yes, then this has to be no, because a free verse cannot have any rhyme or meter. Otherwise, it's not a free verse poem. So for this one, you're going to highlight yes, it is a free verse. As we look at her point of view, if it was in first person, it would be our character telling the story on her own. Second, she would be talking directly to you, the reader. And third, somebody's telling it about her. So as we look over it, says she walks as if favoring a sore foot, and her one hand can't distinguish coins from stones. So it uses words like she and her, and she imagines. So those pronouns will tell us that this is a third person point of view. It's talking about this girl. It's not her telling us her story. And then what facts can we determine about the speaker? So remember that speaker is not necessarily the same as the author. So I do not want you to go up to this author section and pull out information from here. So we're looking just at what the poem tells us. So within the poem, we can tell things like, I'm going to use a color other than black so it'll show up nice. We know that she kind of has a funny walk. It says she walks as if favoring a sore foot. So we can kind of drop in a text box down here. So she has a limp of some sort, maybe. And her one hand can't distinguish coins from stones. So one hand is somewhat numb. But if we think about reaching into your pocket, and if you have a rock or a coin in your pocket, not being able to tell the difference between those two is not a severe disability. It's not like you can't feel anything, it's just that very fine detail. So she has a somewhat numb hand. She thinks most people don't know about it. At last week's dance, a boy kissed her in the corner. So she's been kissed by a boy. We know she's in a youth group. And she's volunteering to dance with, says she'll choose a partner among the palsied strangers. It says that there's guests crowding the gymnasium in wheelchairs. So she's volunteering at a dance, and she's volunteering to dance with disabled teenagers. So that's the information that we know about her from just reading the poem and not looking at the author, because sometimes the author is not the same as the speaker. So I'm going to stop here for reading number 1, and you can watch the next video for reading number 2.